Hello everybody and welcome. I'm No02 and thank you for watching this video. This is my Act 3 deck that I used to beat Act 3 solo on No Hope mode. Now admittedly this is not the type of deck that I was hoping to share with you. I was hoping to show you more maybe a deck that would encourage a more traditional play like the previous two Act decks that I've played, as far as like you take advantage of the bots and you go through the map as sort of normal and do things here and this clever thing here and things like that. Act 3 has some very serious issues as far as doing that normal playstyle, especially at the start, with the bots. If you don't want to hear the journey that I took that eventually led to me making the speedrun deck, skip to the timestamp where I talk about the deck itself. But for the most part, though, keep in mind that I will be releasing more decks for each of the acts over time. I'm still working on potentially playing through Act 3 in a more normal, more traditional sense with the bots in solo mode, but for the time being, it felt incredibly difficult. Had way more success with this at the start. Keep in mind that this deck is using Holly, and there's rumors that Holly might be reworked in the future, where she'll no longer get extra stamina on ridden elimination. Right? She gets stamina per kill, basically. Her stamina does not trigger per instance. What I mean by that, or it doesn't trigger multiple times per instance. So like if you throw a pipe bomb and blow up 50 zombies, that will only generate one thing of stamina. Was it 10? It'll only generate 10 stamina. It'll only count one time, even though you blow up 50 zombies with a single pipe bomb. So keep that in mind. Pipe bombs are not like a free full bar stamina regen. So, here are the major issues with Act 3 in No Hope mode by yourself, in solo. 1, we start off with big open areas on really long maps. Further afield, blazing trails, as well as cabins by the lake. Big open areas, really long maps, not a whole lot of space to maneuver. Some of the maps, those maps will vary in loot, and the loot is on particular parts of the maps. I was finding that, for the most part, dealing with mutations over the course of those long maps, I just couldn't get enough grenades, couldn't get enough resources over the course of those maps to deal with all the mutations. And now dealing with mutations out in the open, not a big deal for players. Not really a big deal at all for us. But for the bots, they're not dodging. They're not moving and grooving. You can sort of, run away from a bruiser and get the bots to kite backwards, and you shoot the bruiser from a distance and then run back, and it was very slow, very tedious, herding cats. Or a mama goose herding our cat herd, or steed of whatever, and just dealing with the mutations is a really big issue in those maps because the bots don't dodge anything. You could do sort of a more aggressive playstyle where you would go forward, pull aggro onto the bruiser or the tall boy, bait out the swings so that no bots are taking hits instead, and deal with the tall boys that way. Even though the issue there, though, is the bot's number one priority is to stay close proximity to you. So if I was on top of a tall boy baiting out his swings, eventually the bots would show up as well to try and help, and holding aggro on the mutations was just not a reliable and consistent thing to do with the bots. So for the most part, out in the open, the bots would just get shredded by these incredibly high health mutations. Using grenades over the course of these long maps was very inconsistent, very RNG heavy, so whether or not I ended up having enough resources to do so. On top of that, we would still have a boss to deal with, as well as other horde events, like the house on further afield typically would be alarmed. You'd have to fight a horde there and be inside the house, and you'd usually end up burning a grenade to or there. Usually I'd end up running out of grenades by that house anyways, before then. It was very RNG heavy as far as the particular, accessory economy that I was running before. What sort of led me to this inclination of maybe I should run more damage. And when it comes to trying to use these common early game weapons to eliminate ferocious tall boys or bruisers quickly enough that they're not getting on top of our bots and just doing free damage, you need 5-6 cards. There was so much damage necessary to burn down these mutations from a distance reliably and consistently, so the bots wouldn't take free damage all the time. All the while trying to move through the map quickly enough these rather long maps, and it just was not really working. The next issue is actually T5 and body dump, where then we would need you need movement speed, you need sprint speed and stamina, and there's just no way around it. I think for the most part, we're gonna need dash, run like hell, fire in the hole, and mad dash as like solid foundation to beat those missions, because those missions are just not good for the bots in general. Bots do not do well if they need to move from point A to point B, and on T5 you're moving and grooving, you're finding crates. You need 8 crates on solo no hope mode, and though you can keep the bots alive for about half of that mission maybe, where you're pulling all the crates out into the hallway, getting the crates into a comfortable place, but for the most part, once you start running the crates to the truck, the bots are dead. The bots die. It doesn't matter. There's no way, I think, to really do that super reliably while keeping the bots alive and having enough resources over the course of that mission to deal with all of the mutations. So now we run into a card issue where it feels like I need lots of damage cards at the start to deal with mutations, and then lots of movement speed to deal with that map, and then we still need really good grenade economy still to deal with the later missions, especially grenade damage going into body dump, where we'll need to kill that ogre super quickly after dealing with the 3 mega nests. And again, on that mission, we're going to need lots of movement speed, lots of stamina, and the means to maintain it. So this became this really strange card issue where it was just Act 3 requires different things. Act 3 requires like strong tools at different parts between damage and movement speed, and then grenade damage. And so I ended up finding the most success with this deck here, and so I think my first playthrough guide of Act 3 will be demonstrating this speedrun deck. So bear with me here. We still need our economy, hazard pay. But that's about it. Extra copper. Copper's king still. Pinata, because Pinata's the best card in the game. You'll still get clutch opportunities for Pinata. Pinata will still come in big for you on T5. Big for you on between T5 and the body dump, so like a friend in need. Making the grade, Pinata will come in huge for you. Pinata will be your primary resource as far as finding extra throwables. Pretty good still. Pretty good still. Next is dash, run like hell, fire in the hole, and mad dash. Just movement, sprint speeds particularly here. We have all of the sprint speed cards here. We'll need it with these 4 cards being active at a time. You definitely run faster than the blitzing zombies. Next we have Olympic Sprinter, Superior Cardio, and Cross Trainers, and we sort of blend the best of both worlds here. When it comes to T5, there's not a lot of you're not going to be sprint jumping everywhere you go. You're going to want to be really managing your stamina, because you'll need stamina at critical moments as far as getting in and out of the house and things like that. So I found that sprint jumping was not always the most consistent way to move about. In which those instances then, we get lots of mileage out of the extra sprint efficiency here by counteracting mad dash. But when we do want to sprint jump, we still get the extra stamina regen of cross trainers plus the bot's mandatory PT. We have lots and lots of stamina here to deal with all of the nonsense in general. And so with this, you're able to, it's not easy, but comfortably for the most part, deal with T5. I'll show you in the playthrough video exactly how you deal with that and play it so that you can keep the bots alive for as long as possible while you set the crates up, and then once the bots start dying, you start running crates to the truck, and then it's just a matter of maintaining a good loop, and you're good to go. But also, again, for T5, for the body dump, all these cards are critical for the most part. Because, interestingly enough, now we have Run and Gun and Adrenaline Fueled. Run and Gun, Adrenaline Fueled. You can sprint and shoot. Super convenient for T5. Oh, so nice for T5. It feels like zombies are spawning all over the place in the house. It's not quite as reliable or consistent as it felt before. So having the ability to sprint down basically a hallway or up a narrow staircase on T5 and just unload your SMG or your shotgun or what have you into the zombies ahead of you and clear your path is so nice. Super critical. Added a tremendous amount of consistency to the run. And then Adrenaline Fueled. Because on T5, we're going to need constant stamina regen, and Adrenaline Fueled is a great way to supplement that. Also keep in mind that we're playing Holly. If Holly gets reworked, then obviously this deck still functions as it is, but it's not quite as good. We want Holly's extra stamina effect when we heck up a zombie. You know what I mean? And so between having Holly and adrenaline fueled, if you were shooting things quickly enough, getting enough kills, for the most part, you can maintain your stamina almost indefinitely. Not only was this critical on T5, but this entire deck allows you to almost speedrun the entirety of like further afield Blazing Trails, as well as Cabins by the Lake, where you can maintain your stamina bar for so long, for so long. And some moments where I would shoot birds on purpose to trigger Holly's ability multiple times, I would end up spawning zombies in front of me, and I would just shoot the zombies in front of me and keep going. And you could like almost like never let go of the sprint key from start to finish if you get lucky with some bird placements and some zombie placements, and you just go and you just fly. It's rather ridiculous. So it gives us the ability to speed run those first 3 missions that are incredibly difficult for the bots. And once we're in like Garden Party, I played it relatively normal. I didn't speed run it. I just played through those maps normally because we have the ability to hold off against the horde comfortably and choke point mutations, and it was just so much easier to deal with everything on Garden Party because we had reliable holdout spots, and it wasn't all wide and open, so we had angles to play with and things like that. After that is just our standard double grenade pouch, bomb squad, explosive accessories. Once you start getting to the blue and purple grenades, this extra 100% grenade damage becomes really critical. Having grenades capable of at least stumbling hardened tall boys at this point, as well as dealing with the ogre on the body dump. You'll hit it with some T5 grenades, hit it with some actual grenades if you need to, and then hopefully blow it up quite easily, quite comfortably. Also, Fire in the Hole, best card in the game for dealing with body dump, because every single T5 grenade triggers off of this card. It's amazing. It's amazing. The Fire in the Hole actually saved my run. I got to the body dump, and I got down to like 16 points of health. It was falling apart, and I just kept picking up T5 grenades and just kept throwing them, and eventually got all the way up to full health, and had to like basically gun down the ogre. But with the T5 grenades, I can do so indefinitely for the most part. Because not only did I get the extra health, the extra movement speed, but if I needed to get out of a sticky situation, I would just throw that down on the ground, throw the T5 grenade on the ground. It was basically a Molotov for a little bit, so it would stack up effects for Holly and stack up effects for adrenaline fueled, and we were good to go. So, speedrun Act 3. For the most part, you speedrun the first 3 missions. Play Garden Party normal. You have to speedrun T5. There's no way around it for the most part. You play it normally, get the crates into good locations, and then once the bots are dying, then you start running crates to the truck. Then you can play a friend in need, making the grade and Road to Hell relatively normally for the most part. Though Road to Hell is a little hard because those opening areas are quite long and quite open, and sort of comfortably dealing with the mutations though becomes much easier at that point in the run because we have way better weapons, hopefully some upgrades, maybe a legendary weapon. So once you get to Road to Hell, hopefully your weapon and your kit are, and maybe some cards that you've purchased along the ways, will allow you to deal with mutations way more reliably. But dealing with mutations at the beginning of Act 3 with common weapons, there's really no amount of cards that allows us to do so comfortably to keep the bots safe, and no few amount of cards that allow us to do that and still have space in our deck to deal with other things like T5 and the body dump. And then once you get to the body dump, you're basically playing it with like T5 again. Sort of just keep the bots alive for the beginning part, but once it's time to run, it's time to run and the bots are just left behind. So it took me about maybe 2-3 hours to beat Act 3 with this deck, sort of tweaking it and changing it in between fails. And this is the final result where I was able to just had a good success. Good bit of success. So let me know what you guys think of this deck. Let me know if you try it out and how it's going, where you're having problems or struggling. In the future, I will be putting out different Act 3 decks. I believe that there's alternative ways to maybe play it, playing around with different weapons and things like that to try and figure it out. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it, and I will see you in the future.